The PlayStation VR2 launched in February 2023, and I've mostly used it for racing in Gran Turismo 7 on PlayStation 5. We've not had any other PlayStation 5 VR sim racing titles since GT7, so my headset has largely gone unused for a while now. That is until last week Sony released the Steam VR app and a new PCVR adapter, which means you can now use the PlayStation VR headset for PCVR. In this video I'm going to give you my thoughts on using this headset for racing sims and flight sims, after spending about 8 hours testing it out and giving some comparisons to the Quest 3, which is a similarly priced VR headset. I'm not going to run through the setup process, but the parts you will need are the PlayStation VR2 headset itself, currently £430 or $550, but this has been on sale for £350 and $350 recently. A Bluetooth capable PC, so Bluetooth on your motherboard. If you're close to your PC, remember you need a Wi-Fi aerial to boost the range for the distance of where you're using the controllers, or a separate USB adapter that can be picked up for about £10. Note you'll need this even if you don't plan to use the PSVR2 controls for sims, as you need them for the setup process. I also had my Bluetooth adapter on an extension lead to be as close as possible to the controllers to avoid controller disconnections, which can cause stutters. If you have an older NVIDIA 2000 series GPU or an AMD 6000 or 7000 series GPU with a Type-C virtual link socket, you just need to download the Sony software and then you're good to go. Otherwise, for more recent GPUs, you'll need to pick up the Sony PlayStation VR2 PC Adapter for £50 and a DisplayPort 1.4 compatible cable. The Sony software runs as an application inside SteamVR. You can change the brightness and refresh rate between 90Hz and 120Hz only, and the rumble strength of the controllers. Currently there's no eye tracking support, even though the headset has it, and the adaptive triggers on the controllers don't function. Also, HDR video is not supported. For most of my playtesting, I had the SteamVR global resolution set between 140% and 150%, which provided a good sharp image quality on my NVIDIA RTX4090 and AMD 7800 X3D setup. In terms of games testing, the first up was Assett Corsa Competitzione at 90Hz refresh rate on a modified VR Epic graphics preset. The visuals and the colours in daytime look good, and the audio from the earbuds good enough. The image is definitely not quite as sharp as the Quest 3, which has a bigger sweet spot and better edge-to-edge clarity. However, switching to night races, the blacks on the PSVR2 blew the Quest 3 away. I only ran the PSVR2 at 90Hz because ACC is known to have VR performance problems if you run it directly with SteamVR, and with PSVR2 you have to. With Quest 3 you can use Open Composite and the OpenXR toolkit to gain a lot more performance. It seems Open Composite doesn't work with PSVR2 software, so keep this in mind for any other non-OpenXR games you may want to use with it. Next up was the original Assett Corsa, set to 90Hz, and the night scenes in this game looked absolutely fantastic. Racing around Shikoku at night really shows off the capabilities of this panel. The flashing lights of the police cars really looked impressive, and it ran very well without any stutters whatsoever. Next up was F124, which I played at 90Hz at VR High preset and then 120Hz on the VR Medium preset. In both cases the game ran just fine, and in 120Hz mode it definitely made a difference for some of the fast turn sections on some of the tracks such as Monaco. So overall works really well on F124. This game does suffer with long distance clarity, so you may actually prefer to run it at 90Hz and have the super sampling turned up a bit. Next I tried Automobilista 2 at 120Hz. This game is known for it running very well in VR performance wise, and I had no problems with it whatsoever at 120Hz with high graphics. The colours look great, if not perhaps a little oversaturated. I didn't try the night tracks in this game because this game doesn't perform very well at night time. Compared to the Quest 3 though, that is a bit sharper, so I'd say out of the two headsets it looked better on the Quest 3 for the daytime races. Next I had to go on Dirt Rally 2, and this game really shines on the PSVR2 at 120Hz. This game is quite old now, however it means it runs at 120Hz nicely. The high contrast of the sunshine coming through the forest leaves with the sun rays look really good. I've played this game quite a lot on the Quest 3, and although the Quest 3 is definitely sharper, the link compression struggles with the dark forest foliage, and artifacts are even worse if you play wirelessly. Also, too much clarity reveals some of the game texture imperfections, so the slight softness of the PSVR2 actually made this game look a little better and a little more realistic to me, rather than the clinical look of the Quest 3. So if you're a Dirt Rally 2 fan, I'd say this is probably the best headset currently to play this game on. Then I switched to a flight sim with DCS. So first of all, I tried the Spitfire, and the cockpit dials on the Spitfire were easily readable, as they were with the Apache that I also tried. The night flight in the F-16 looked absolutely fantastic. This is the best I've actually seen this game look at night, perhaps better than the Pimax Crystal with local dimming on. The sky effect looked great with the moon, and the street lighting on the ground looked really good and just felt really realistic. I then went back to the Quest 3 to see how that looked like at night time, and it makes you aware how much background light that you get come through from the LCD display. It's almost as if someone's got a torch or a flashlight on inside the cockpit, so it makes a real difference for nighttime flying. So if you're a DCS fan and you like doing night flights, then I can definitely recommend the PSVR2, as it performed very well here. However, for daytime flights, the Quest 3's extra sharpness and edge-to-edge clarity makes it the better headset for daytime simmers. Last of all, I tried Star Wars Squadrons, which is a fast-paced space combat game, and this genre really lets the PSVR2 shine. Colours look vibrant, and by turning the resolution down to 100% render scale in Steam, I was able to hit 120Hz with high graphics. So after trying these games, here are some pros and cons that I have after testing out the PSVR2. So first off, it's light and comfortable, which is good for long play sessions. It's wired, so there's no charging required, unlike the Quest 3, but you do need the controllers charged. I have mine permanently in a charging dock next to the sim rig, so that's not an issue. The audio is decent from the earbuds. There's good binocular overlap for 3D imaging, which looks good, and perhaps that's slightly better than the Quest 3. The colours look fantastic, and the dynamic range is really good, even though HDR is not supported. The OLED panels beat out the local dimming on LCD headsets, so you don't get the glowing areas around dimming zones like you do on the Quest Pro or Pimax Crystal. The image is softer, but sometimes perhaps that's more realistic. This will be down to personal preference, but the PSVR2 has warmer images and is less clinical looking compared to the Quest 3, which has razor sharp images but a more washed out and a colder looking effect. PSVR2 has a decent FOV, bigger than the Quest 3, with acceptable edge-to-edge clarity, no obvious chromatic aberrations unlike the Pimax Crystal. The sweet spot is reasonable and is bigger than the G2 and the Pimax Crystal, but it's nowhere near as big as the Quest 3 sweet spot, which is massive and makes it very easy to line it up once you put the headset on and off your head. The direct DisplayPort video output, with no video compression or artifacts or performance overhead like the Quest 3, makes it really good for high-speed games with low latency. 120Hz is great if your PC is powerful enough to reach it, which amplifies the benefit of having direct DisplayPort compared to the Quest 3. 120Hz over link compression tends to look bad compared to 90Hz, since you're squeezing a lot more frames over the same video bandwidth. Now onto the cons. The Fresnel lenses produce God rays and a softer focus compared to the pancake lenses on the Quest 3. The subpixel arrangement means it isn't quite as sharp as the LCD headsets at the equivalent resolution. The PSVR2 suffers from something called Mora, which effectively means solid colours have a inconsistent appearance to them. So you can notice that with the dark blue scenes in the SteamVR setup area, some of the dark blues don't appear as one even colour. It almost looks as if it's like a dirty blue instead. There's slight pupil swim, which means some of the edges of menus can wobble if you quickly turn your head left and right, even when it's set 120Hz refresh mode. Eye tracking doesn't work, but who knows, perhaps in a future update this may work, but for now the technology's there in the headset, it's just not available to use on PCVR. The controls are required for setup and navigating the SteamVR menus. You can't use the headset without them, so you need to make sure you've got those charged up and ready to use when you want to game. So in summary, I think if you can pick up the PSVR2 on sale for £350 or $350, this makes for a good wired PCVR headset. Its main party trick is being capable of running at 122Hz uncompressed video with brilliant black levels and fantastic colours. This makes it perfect for night races, rally games or fast action space sims. All the games I tested worked well with the exception of ACC, which has the occasional stutter due to the game having to be run via Steam VR, but that's more of a software problem than a headset issue. For ACC races in particular, I'd say you're probably best sticking with the Quest 3, or if you can get your hands on one, the Quest Pro with eye tracking and local dimming. For instrument reading in cockpits, in flight sims and long distance clarity, the PCVR2 is usable, but I still think people will probably prefer the higher resolution LCD panels in other headsets for daytime flights. So ultimately it'll depend on the sort of games you play and what matters to you. Well, that's it for the video. Don't forget, if you enjoyed it, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.